Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I do want to say thank you so much for joining us for this webinar on the NC 529 College Savings Plan. So, we're going to have a really good time together today. And I am going to ask that if you have any questions for me, feel free to jot them down. You can send them in the chat. I will be checking the chat periodically just to make sure I'm addressing all of your questions. So, again, we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have a few more people joining in, and that's fine as well. So, here are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about, why you need to or why should you consider starting a 529 plan. We'll talk about what a 529 plan is, some of the new features for 529 that you may or may not be aware of, and we're also going to talk about frequently asked questions. So, first off, why start a 529 plan? As you and I both know, that most families will have to pay at least a portion of their children or other family members' college expenses. And so we want to make it as easy as we can or as easy as possible. And so that's why we want you to start considering planning ahead for the future. So, again, a 529 account definitely gets you started with your share of future expenditures. So, as we talk about a 529, what is a 529 plan? So, 529 plans are named after the IRS code 529, and they're designed to help you save for all different types of qualified educational expenses. So, we're talking about things like tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, and other equipment. So anytime you hear me talking about that today, that's what I'm referring to. So as we talk about North Carolina's 529 plan, it was authorized by the North Carolina General Assembly for the state in 1996. Now, the NC 529 plan is established and maintained by the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority and is administered by College Foundation, Inc., or CFI. Now, here's some of the main features of the plan that we're going to be talking about. First of all, I want to let you know this is a national savings plan, so it can be used, at any accredited college or university in the country. So it's open to residents of any state. You're doing a direct enrollment through CFI, so that means there's no fees or sales charges that you have to worry about for enrolling. It is accessible. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the affordability of the plan. We'll talk also about tax-free earnings on contributions, how the plan is flexible, as well as it being comprehensive. Now, as we're talking and I'm telling you that the plan is accessible, that means any adult can open an account for anyone who plans to go to college. So, regardless of the beneficiary's age or their relationship. So, it could be parent, grandparent, godparent, step parent, friend of the family, or you might be, joining today and you want to establish an account for your own self. So, it could be for yourself. You can establish an account. Now, I think that when we talk about the affordability of a program, that's where some people are kind of deciding, should I do this? Can I afford to do this? Or so forth. So there is no enrollment fee. I think we touched on that a few minutes ago, but I want to just remind you there's no enrollment fee. Now, the minimum contribution is as low as $25. So when I say that the minimum contribution is $25, that's $25 per contribution. So, in other words, anytime that you're making a contribution to the plan, it needs to be at least $25. As we talk about annual asset based fees and expenses, they're relatively low. So you can see here in parentheses 0.25% to 0.39%. And there are no extra fees unless you request some type of special service from us. So that might be some type of courier delivery, you're receiving paper communication instead of electronic or outgoing wires. So those are some of the reasons that you might have, additional fees. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the presentation, as we're talking today. You can contribute on occasion or regularly, and, you can do it however you want to. You can do a lump sum contribution. You can use an automatic draft. Of course, your organization makes this available through payroll deduction, which I think is one of the best ways to make sure that you're saving. Now, when we're talking about lump sum contributions, that might mean that we're receiving a personal check. It can be EFT, money orders. You might decide to do a transfer or rollover from another Section 529 account that you have. It could be the Coverdell Education Savings Account, qualified saving bonds. So that could be Series EE or I issued after 1989, for example. It could be that you're choosing to do an automatic contribution. And like I mentioned to you before, this is a really easy way to make sure that you are contributing. So you can do a recurring account draft. So that can be once a month or it can be twice a month. You decide what date that you want it to come out, or you can do payroll deduction. So again, your employer already makes this available to you guys through payroll deduction. So it's already set up to transmit your contributions to us. The only thing that you would then be responsible for is that you would be able to enroll. You definitely have to make sure that you're creating an account. And then for your HR or payroll person in HR, you will need to make sure that you have completed a payroll deduction authorization agreement. And that has to be on file with the NC 529 plan. So let's talk about tax advantages. So account earnings are free from both federal and North Carolina income taxes when they're used for qualified educational expenses. So again, those qualified educational expenses that I mentioned to you before would be tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, other equipment. And then, of course, if there was someone out of state, those residents pay no federal income taxes on account earnings used for, again, qualified educational expenses. But they do need to check with their tax advisor regarding state taxes. The plan is also flexible. So as we talk about flexibility, so of course the money can be used at any accredited college or university in the country. So of course we have many wonderful institutions in North Carolina, but it is a national program. So if someone were to decide they want to go to a school outside of North Carolina, they could use the funds outside of our state. Now, some things that I want to make sure that you understand, you can change future contributions anytime. So again, that's money that we have already received that has already been sent to us. You can make, sorry, I said that wrong. Let me just restate that. So you can change future contributions anytime. So that's money that we have not yet received. I misspoke. So again, so changes for future contributions, you can do that anytime. So we haven't received that money yet. So you can go in and make changes. Now, money that we have already received. So you can reallocate those funds twice each calendar year. So money that we've already gotten twice per calendar year, you can make adjustments. So you can move that to a different fund. And then there's some new things that have happened with the NC 529 plan. Now you can use it for student loan repayment, and it can be used for apprenticeship programs. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. So some of you may or may not have been aware of that, and so I wanted to include that in our time together. Now, we talk about the NC 529 savings plan. A lot of times we say college savings plan, but I want to let you know there have been some changes with 529 plans. So it's not just to save for college. It can be used for K through 12 tuition. So that happened beginning January 1, 2018, that participants were able to make qualified withdrawals to pay tuition for a student who might be enrolled or attending an elementary school. It could be a middle school, high school, public or private, or perhaps it was in a religious setting. So in case you did not know that, just want to make sure that you understand that you can now use your NC 529 account for that purpose. So now the second bullet point that you see here on the screen says $10,000 per beneficiary per calendar year may be withdrawn. Again, and it's paying for qualified K-12 tuition expenditures. And then we get to some of the things that I told you in the previous slides that were coming up that are new. So of course, this came along with what we call the Secure Act, and that was signed into law at the end of the year for 2019. So in 2019, this is where you were able to begin using your NC 529 funds to pay your student loan payments or student loan repayment. So here, of course, is up to $10,000 lifetime maximum for 529 beneficiaries. It could be up to $10,000 lifetime maximum for each of the 529 beneficiary siblings. So when we talk about siblings, of course, you know that we're talking about brothers, sisters. It could be a stepbrother, it could be a stepsister, and the participant. So anytime that you hear me talk about the participant is whoever established the NC 529 plan. So the participant can make changes to their beneficiary at any time. Definitely want to make sure that you're aware of that. And so, of course, you know, as you have questions or if you have questions about how to use your NC 529 plan to repay student loans, then of course, you can definitely talk to our office, as well as if you have questions, you can contact your tax advisor to determine how using your 529 funds to repay loans will impact you or your beneficiary. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that as well. Now, as we continue to talk about the Secure Act, I also want to let you know, again, as I mentioned to you before, it can be used for apprenticeship programs. So, of course, it has to be used to pay for qualified educational expenses. So, again, here for apprenticeship programs, we're talking about maybe the fees, books, it could be supplies, equipment, but it has to be for a registered apprenticeship program. So, again, I just want to make sure we're not talking about all apprenticeship programs. We're talking about those that are registered. So if you want to find out a comprehensive list of all programs that would be applicable, then of course, you know, you can check out the Department of Labor and you can find, you know, all the registered apprenticeship programs. And I'm providing a link here, and I'll make sure I'll share this information with you guys as well. So again, anytime you have questions that are tax related, you can again talk to your tax advisor. Now, as we're talking about the 529 plan, one of the things I want to make sure that you understand during our time together or during this conversation, I cannot advise you. I cannot tell you which investment option to choose. So it does have to be an individual decision that you make. So I can tell you how the plan works. If you contact our main office, our associates there can tell you how the plan works, but you have to make the decision about which option you want to choose. And if you need additional assistance, that we recommend that you talk to a fee-only planner or you can talk to a financial advisor. So the first thing I want to talk to you about here would be how the plan is comprehensive. So of course you want to select investment options that meet your objectives. So whatever those objectives are, you want to make sure you're selecting investments that are achieving those goals. So they also need to make sure that as you're making decisions, they're fitting the time remaining until your beneficiary will need the money, you know, for college. And also you want to keep in mind what your risk tolerance is. So some of you might be very conservative. Some of you might be, you know, more aggressive. Others might be moderate. So think about, you know, like when you're considering how to make decisions with your retirement, you can think of this kind of the same, except for it's for education. So let's talk about some of the options that are available to you guys. First up, you'll see the federally insured deposit account. Now, this is offered by State Employees Credit Union. Now, let me just pause for a moment. So when I say it's offered by State Employees Credit Union, that does not mean that you have to be a member of State Employees Credit Union. So you could be a member, but you could be a non-member and still choose this as one of your investment options. So for the federally insured deposit account, it seeks to provide income plus protection of principal and earnings through the federal deposit insurance. So when we're talking about what your risk tolerance is, you know, this would be more of a conservative type of investment. And then you'll see here, the principal contributed interest earned are guaranteed by the State Employee Credit Union and insured by the National Credit Union Administration. So this also lets you know this is a guaranteed option that's available to you. Now, remember, you don't have to choose only one fund manager. You can diversify your portfolio. You can mix and match. So you don't have to have all your eggs in one basket. Now, let's just talk about Vanguard. As you know, Vanguard's been around for a very long time. And I want to just tell you about 3 Vanguard age-based investment options that you might decide that you want to choose from. So as we talk about Vanguard, of course, there are several different tracks that you see here on my screen. Choose the one that fits your risk tolerance. So you want to do that. keep in mind your beneficiary's age. So you'll kind of figure out where you need to be placed within whatever track you select. So we're going to have the aggressive track, we have the moderate track, and we have the conservative track. All right. So here I like to use a lot of examples. You'll see a chart, you'll see the Vanguard age-based investment options. So to my left, you're going to see all the different ages for your beneficiary, perhaps. And then across the top, you'll also see all the different tracks that we talked about. So I always use myself just because I haven't gotten a chance to talk with you guys. I'm not sure who you might be here for, but I have two boys. So if you've ever been on a web meeting with me before, and I just said, hey, I'm not there with you guys in person, but I have two boys. So one of my sons is a fifth grader. He's 10. He's about to turn 11. And I have a rising high school student who will be in ninth grade next year. So I want you guys to know I'm right there with you. So if you're here today and you're saving for your child, or if you're saving for your grandchild, I'm right here. College is within my reach for my students, and I can see it. I can see the light in the tunnel, and I'm about to be part of those parents who will be sending their children to college very soon. So let's look at we'll look at my fifth grader first. So my fifth grader, as we're looking for that information, let's say, I'm looking at the aggressive track. So if I'm looking at the aggressive track, we're looking at Vanguard Growth Portfolio. So if I'm looking at that Vanguard Growth Portfolio, the money that I'm contributing will be invested 75% stock and 25% bond. Now, if I'm thinking, maybe I want to look at that moderate track. If I go over and I look at the moderate track, it says Vanguard Moderate Growth Portfolio. So if I'm looking at that one, we're looking at what? We're looking at a 50-50 split, right? So 50% stock, 50% bond. And then I'm going to just go over just a little bit, and we see the conservative track, because we have some of you that might be very conservative, and that's fine. So Vanguard Conservative Growth Portfolio is what I'd be looking at. So this one is kind of, it kind of flipped the other way. So the first one we looked at was mostly, stock and then only a certain percent bond. But for this age group, it's kind of flipped from the first portfolio we looked at. So for the Vanguard Conservative Growth Portfolio, we're looking at 25% stock and 75% bond here. So as we're looking at this screen, I challenge you or invite you to look at this chart and look at whoever you might be here for. So whatever age group that we're looking at. So as you can see from this chart, the younger that your student, is, of course, you have a lot more time on your side. And then, of course, you could afford to be, more aggressive in your decision making. But as you go along and your student or whoever you're saving for, it could be your grandchild or your niece or your nephew, because aunts and uncles sometimes contribute to 529 plans, or godparents. But you'll see it gets, the closer we get to college, we're starting to be a little bit more conservative here. So just want to talk about that a little bit. Now, remember, I told you I have my fifth grader. He's going to be 11 soon. He's excited about that. And then I have my child who'll be 14. Remember, he's going to ninth grade next year. So I'm on the countdown. I'm excited, but I'm a little bit nervous at the same time because I just can't believe how fast time has flown by. But anyway, so let's look at the differences. So if I'm looking at my child who will be 14 next month, so in a few weeks, if I'm looking at the aggressive track, we're looking at the Vanguard Moderate Growth Portfolio. So we're looking at 50% stock and 50% bond here. And then we move over. If I think maybe I want to look at the moderate track, so that's the Vanguard Conservative Growth Portfolio. So 25% stock, 75% bond. And then, that's the moderate track. And then if I look at the conservative track, that's the Vanguard Income Portfolio. So here we're looking at 75% bond and 25% short-term reserves. And so, the first chart we looked at as early as newborn. You saw that's where it started. And here it could be, someone has someone that might be 19 years or older that they're trying to save money for. But I'd like to give some real examples so you guys understand, kind of, where we are or where you could be as you're making some choices or some decisions. Now, we talked about um, the life cycle or age-based programs that Vanguard makes available. But if you like some of the individual portfolios that you saw within those different tracks, but you don't want to do age-based, you could decide that you want to do that. And so as we're talking about that, I just want to make sure that you understand that we have some individual portfolios as well that you can choose from. So the Vanguard Aggressive Growth Portfolio seeks to provide capital appreciation. Okay, so that might be one that you're interested in. We also have the Vanguard Growth Portfolio. It seeks to provide growth of capital and low to moderate income. Another one that you might be looking at would be the Vanguard Moderate Growth Portfolio. So if we're looking at that, it seeks growth of capital and current income. The Vanguard Conservative Growth Portfolio, it seeks to provide current income and low to moderate growth of capital. And then, of course, we have Vanguard Income Portfolio. It seeks current income. So I just want to, make sure that you understand that all of these individual portfolios, they seek to do certain things. So I'm going to continue on the next screen. Now, for sake of time, I know some of you might be on your lunch hour, and I have several other things that I want to discuss with you, and I want to allow time for questions. Let me just, let you see some of the things here. So there are 4 other portfolios that are listed here. So you have the Vanguard Interest Accumulation Portfolio. So this one seeks to provide income consistent with the preservation of principal. And then, we have the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Portfolio. So it seeks to track the performance of a benchmark index that measures the investment return of the overall stock market. You might look at the Vanguard Total International Stock Index Portfolio. So this one seeks to track the performance of a benchmark index that measures the investment return of stocks issued by companies located in developed and emerging markets. And then last but certainly not least is the Vanguard Total Bond Market Index Portfolio. So it seeks to track the performance of a broad market weighted bond index. So all of these are very different. So you can mix and match. You can diversify your portfolio. I know I'm giving you a lot of information. And I do want to let you know that you will be able to see this information again. We also have it on our website, and we have a very detailed program description. Now, the program description will definitely allow you to learn a little bit more about each fund and the fund managers to help you make an educated decision about what is going to best meet your needs. So I'm going to look at this information a little bit more. I know you guys are thinking, certain things about the 529, who can contribute. Maybe, you have some questions about, are there any kind of income restrictions? So I want to answer some of those things. So, the first thing I want to talk to you about is who can contribute. So, of course, as we're talking about who can contribute, anyone can contribute to the plan. As we talk about annual contributions, some of you may have questions about, annual contributions. So the maximum allowable or total allowable is $500,000. Wow, that's a lot. And every time I hear that, it makes me chuckle just a little bit. So the maximum total allowable is $500,000. So we look at the most expensive colleges and universities in the country. So we're looking at least 4 years of college. And then, of course, maybe, even 2 years of a graduate program. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware about that. Now, as we talk about, the account owner, or I should say whoever's in control, or, when you hear me say account owner, I'm actually talking about the participant. Okay, so whoever established the account, that person is the account owner, is in control. That means that once your beneficiary or whoever you've been saving for reaches the age of maturity or majority, they can't just take this money and do whatever they want to with it. So something else, the age of beneficiary for contributions. Let's talk about that a little bit. So when we talk about the age of beneficiary for contributions, that could be any age. So you could be someone who has a newborn. You have someone who's already in grade school or maybe even in college. Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat. Sorry about that. So the age of beneficiary for contributions, so any age. Taxes on qualified withdrawals. So again, we talked about that at the very beginning. So at the very beginning, I told you no federal or North Carolina income taxes. So remember, the key word is what? Qualified withdrawals. So as we talk about timing of withdrawals, so whenever the beneficiary goes to college, income restrictions. So there are no AGI limits for the 529. Now, I want to also talk to you a little bit about what we call a 529A plan. So let me talk about the 529A. This particular plan is administered by the NC Treasurer, so office. And so the 529A will allow people with disabilities to save and maybe their family members and friends to contribute. So the 529 account that we've been talking about earlier is solely to save for qualified educational expenses. And we talked about what types of things that it can be used for. Now, the 529A account is not just used for educational expenses. So it allows people with disabilities to save for qualified disability expenses. So these might be expenses that are not covered by Medicaid. So for more information, if you have questions about the 529A plan, you can go to www.nc.savewithable.com. Again, www.ncsavewithable.com. So lots of great information there to help you if you're in need of a 529A. Now, just some additional information about the 529A account. So for this particular account, participants may now roll assets from the NC 529 plan into an ABLE account. So let me just say that again, because we'll get that question sometimes. So participants can roll money from the NC 529 plan into an ABLE account. And so now rollovers are limited. So the limitation is $15,000 per calendar year. Now here's our savings calculator. So if you're on the NC529.org website, there is a calculator to help you figure out, how much you can save or how much you should save. So this online savings calculator will allow you to, indicate, your dependents. So you can say child one, if you have more than one child, you can put that child's, information in. So, and of course, it's going to tell you based upon the information that you put into the calculator, how much it will cost, you to go to, or your student. So you, or if you're saving for someone else or the student to go to a college that they're considering. Or you can use the calculator and you can say, this is how much money I want to save. How much money will I have available at the time that, my beneficiary or the student is going to be going to college. So it's a great, tool to help you figure out what you want to do or what you can do or should do in order to meet your objectives or your goals. Now, let's just talk about, how to get signed up. So, of course, you can go to our nc529.org website, or, you can go to our parent website, cfnc.org/nc529. So enrollment is really easy. You can enroll in about 10 minutes or so. There's account information. So any questions you have about your account, you can access that information. We have account maintenance forms, FAQs, or frequently asked questions. So one of the questions I typically get is, if I have multiple, children, do I need to have multiple accounts? And the answer to that question is yes. If you have two individuals you want to save for, you need two accounts. And then, of course, sometimes I'll get the question asked, what happens if my student doesn't go to school? So you don't have to actually, say, oh, my child's not going to school. I need to take the money out. So remember, you're in control. So you can technically leave that money in the account, and maybe, they take a gap year and then decide, hey, I really do want to go to college. It could be that you save for someone and they decide to go to a less expensive college. So that could happen. And if that is the case, then you can, keep the money in account, and maybe they decide they want to go to graduate school and you can use the money for graduate studies. It could be that you have another beneficiary, right? And you can roll the money over to another beneficiary. It could be that you want to go back to school, name yourself as participant and beneficiary, use it for yourself. You can save for grandchildren. So, your children don't want to go to school, name yourself as participant beneficiary, and then you have a grandchild in the future. You can use it for a grandchild. So, worst case scenario, if you don't have any body that you want to save for, then you can withdraw the money from the account if it's not used for the purpose in which it's intended. Of course, you would have to pay federal and state taxes on what is earned, and then of course, there's a 10% penalty or whatever the rate is at that time. So I just want to let you know about that. But there are all kinds of questions that you might have about the 529. And like I said, we do have a FAQ section on our website, and I'm going to pause in just a moment to allow you, to ask me questions. So we'll talk about that in just a few moments. We also have gift forms. I don't think I put that in the presentation, but we do have gift forms, on our website. So if someone wants to maybe put money into the account, that might be a loved one, and they say, well, your child, is getting birthday money, or whatever the reason. Christmas time is a good time to give, or maybe someone has gotten their tax money back, and they want, to put money into the 529 or whatever. But we do have those gift forms available. So we do have representatives that can talk to you. So if you don't think of anything today while we're together, you can contact our office in Raleigh. And of course, we do have associates there that can answer your questions Monday through Thursday, 8 to 8, and Friday, 8 to 5. So you'll see our toll-free number here is 800-600-3453, and you can talk to someone that way. So I just want to just remind you that investing in the future is not, it's not that hard. It's just getting started that takes a little bit more, I think, more out of you. Just getting started, saying, I'm ready to do this. So, of course, once you get it started, I promise you, it is really easier than you think. So, definitely want you to know about that. And also want to make sure that you know how to contact us. So we have lots of great information that we're sharing, often. So of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Of course, you can look at our YouTube channel. And then again, I'm just giving you some information on how to access our information online. You can email us savings@cfnc.org. And again, our toll-free number. But I want to stop here to see, what questions that you guys might have for me. And so if you prefer to put your information in the chat, you can certainly do that, too. So what questions do you have for me today?
Hi, this is Tracy.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Let me just my headset just a little bit.
My question is, when you said about the gift form.
Yes.
Okay, is the money, I guess in my head, I'm thinking, okay, of course, the payroll deduction is done at tax. That's done before taxes, right?
It's after tax dollars.
Oh,
So
it is
money,
after.
right. So the money that you're contributing ongoing is, it's not pre-tax, it is after tax dollars.
Okay. Well, now that answers the question. So
okay.
I was going to say, if, how are you paying taxes after you withdraw if you've already paid taxes? Okay. So now that makes sense. So the contribution comes after taxes.
Yes.
The deduction comes after taxes. Okay.
Right. So it's after tax dollars.
Okay.
That's a great question. No problem. Are there other questions?
Hi, can you hear me? This is Owen George.
Hi, Mr. George. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been with WSSU almost 10 years now, but I have from a former job way back many years ago. I had this. I have an AIG retirement account with, several $1,000s in that. Do you happen to know if I could just like transfer this money into the 529? I opened the 529 last year with just a minimum $25 donation, to do that. And can you just transfer money from another sort of a retirement account in there?
So, of course, if you have money in another vehicle, now we can accept transfers or rollovers from an account. You may want to, you know, I would say, um, find out the ramifications of how to get the money out of what you have it in. And, we can accept money. So it's just you get it, doing what you need to do to get it out of what you have it in to be able to have it, put into a 529. And if you have any questions about that too, you can definitely contact us or, once you've made that decision, if you want to get that money out. And we can, talk to you a little bit more detailed about how to do that.
And would I just reach out to you personally once I talk to say this account has an advisor too, so I could call?
You can definitely talk to your advisor. I definitely recommend that you talk to, whoever the advisor is for, for that type of account, and you can tell them what you're trying to do. But we can always take money.
Right, and as long
Yeah,
as it's $15,000 approximately or less per year, something like that.
I will put my contact information in the chat for everyone.
Okay.
So you can, you can email me or you can call me. I'll also put my telephone number here. And so feel free, if you need help or you have additional questions to contact me.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? So I just want you guys to know we will also have some additional webinars coming up that I'll be sharing with your HR department. So one of the upcoming webinars that we'll be having very soon, we'll be just talking about 529 rules, and that one won't be so much about how to get your account established, but helping to understand the process of what happens when it's time to withdraw your funds. So we'll be having another webinar upcoming very soon. I'll share that information with HR so that you can come back and join me and we can have a different conversation. But and we also have 529 day coming up soon. So just be on the lookout to find out what types of things that we might be doing around that time. We usually do a few fun things, so 529 May 29th, no pun intended, 529 is a really exciting time for the NC 529 plan. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And like I said, feel free to follow us on social media as well. Are there any other questions that you don't mind asking in a group, or if not, you can certainly contact me hereafter.
I do have one more question. It may seem crazy. I might have missed something along the way working in between.
That's okay.
My question is, okay, the beneficiary is the person who you're saving the money for, correct?
Correct. So the beneficiary could be, well, the beneficiary, whoever you're saving for. So that could be, it could be a child, of yours, whether it's a biological step, child, grandchild, aunt can save for, a niece or nephew. Sometimes we have grandparents who are saving, so for a grandchild. So the beneficiary could even be you saving for yourself. So you could be participant and beneficiary.
Now, is there only one beneficiary?
There's only one beneficiary per account.
Okay. I guess I'm thinking hypothetically, if something happened to myself, how would my son, I mean, God forbid, but my son go about, accessing that money? I mean, of course he's young now, but later on, at what point, okay, what if he decides not to go to school, but he reaches an age and, wants to take the money out? How does that work?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that two different ways because it makes me think of another question as well, if that's okay.
Sure.
So the first thing you're saying, when you go through the enrollment process, you could have and well, there's an option where you can have a participant successor. And so if you choose to have a participant successor on your account, that's the one who could you make decisions, for the account. So, but you have to specify at what point would that person take over, if that makes sense. So that could be that you have passed away, or another example could be that you're still here, but something has happened. You're in a state where you cannot make decisions. So you
Okay.
can specify that on your account. And then the other question that it makes me think about is sometimes we have grandparents who decide they want to establish an account for a grandchild. Well, sometimes grandparents will decide, I really don't want to, be in control of the account anymore. So that's another time where we have people who will say, I want to, name another participant or someone who could take over the account.
Okay.
That's a great question. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Are there other questions?
Well, I want to, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Baldwin.
Okay, good. I want to thank Tequila Hall for, did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Great presentation, great presentations. And any of you that need to roll over funds, I'll give you my information. Anyone that wants to contribute to my college tuition.
I love it.
Especially Tracy Harper, if you want to add me to your list.
Miss Baldwin, always anything for you.
I'm just
I
kidding.
love
I'm
it.
just kidding. But this was very informative, and I think that is great for because some people didn't know what the 529 plan was. And so I got an email, and I did have someone that two people actually wanted to participate. However, their class was during the same time. So what they asked was, would you be willing to forward the email, the presentation or the video to them, or some type of information? So we can talk about that later. But I
I
see
can do a
here.
couple things, Ms. Baldwin. So I can definitely share the recording for today.
Okay.
I can also, if they want to meet with me one-on-one to talk, I can set up a Zoom for them and invite them, and we can into my personal Zoom room, and we can, talk. If they have specific questions for me, I'll make myself available for that as well.
Okay, okay. I would say that what I did, I told the two people to register anyway, because I know you had about 13 or so that registered that I don't see on here. So I would say that if you can, I don't know if you're able to, the ones that registered, pull the email addresses and send an email to those people that registered, and then offer a one-on-one or the video, or, whatever you would like to do.
Yes, for those who registered, I have their email addresses, and I
Okay.
can send that information as long as they provide it in the on the registration link. So I
Okay.
can do that. But those who did not register, if they didn't, then if you want to have them just email me, I'd be glad to share it.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, as many times as you'd like to have these, we will definitely do these. And I don't know if you were here when I mentioned that the next webinar that we will be doing would be, how to use the money. Excuse me, how to use the money that you've saved. So we'll be talking about that. So what happens when you're
Okay.
ready to withdraw funds? So that'll be a
Okay.
very different presentation. Where today we're just talking about how to get started and how to participate. The next webinar will be how to now withdraw the money that you saved and all the things it can be used for.
Okay, good. Just send me the information, and I'll send it to the campus. And I'll let them know when the video webinar, is it a webinar by
Yes, it'll be a
you?
webinar.
Okay. All right.
So that particular webinar, I will be, it'll be myself and another member of our team. Actually,
Okay.
two members of our team will be doing it. And so I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a great webinar.
Okay.
And we'll keep you guys informed. Okay, well, I'm going to check the chat one more time just to make sure I haven't missed any questions. And if not, Guys, I also will put, if you want to follow me on my social media, so if you're following me on Instagram or Facebook, I'll put my handle so you can see the things that I'm sharing. And you guys have some really good things. I try to share things about your school too. You have some great information. And on both Instagram and on Facebook, my handle is the same, just Tequila at CFNC. And so if you ever want to follow me and just see the things that I'm talking about that are, career and college related, I try to post several times a week, and many times, if depending on the week, sometimes, several times a week, at least I'm posting, if not every day. On the weekends, I take a little break. You
Of
might not see
course.
too many posts from me on Saturday and Sunday, but I try to share some good information as well. Well, thank you so much for your time today. If you have any questions, you have my information. I'm happy to help out anytime that you want to talk. You can call our toll-free number, or if you want to speak with me specifically, you have my direct number. So you're not going through our call center. That's my direct number. You can call me, and I'll definitely help you out. And I look forward to seeing you guys very soon, face to face. I'm missing you guys.
No.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.